You've seen him already. Let's let's bring in Mr. Bimba Ashiru. He's the chairman, Odu'a Investment Company Limited, and former commissioner for commerce industry in Ogun State. He has several other titles as well as achievements to his own right. Mr. Ashiru, thank you so much for coming on the program, sir. Good to see you. So let's get to the very first conversation, the very first part of the conversation. That has to do with, so one of the things, let's start with what the government is touting. We saw the other day the APC stakeholders, they call it, at their summit, midterm, that said they reviewed the report card of the president and they are okay with him and they've endorsed him as sole candidate for the re-election in 2027, meaning giving him the right of refusal. And we'll see what is playing out in the politics. But if we walk away from all of that, let's look at what is important, issues around governance. And one of the ways they've touted, one of the things they've touted is the issue of record high FAC allocation for the states. And that is a fact in Naira terms. But when we look at the impact of all of these monies that are being pumped into the system, do you think is really making a significant impact in that sense at the subnational level from what you see and what you know?
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you for having me. I always tell people there's need for us to make the best out of the bad situation. I served as a commissioner for 8 years in Ogun State. And I can tell you that what we did is to ensure that we put the right things in place. If you are getting money from FAC and you are diverting it to something else, then there's a problem. And there's no people, there's no citizens of federal. They're all state citizens. And let me tell you this, as a government, state governors, when you get this FAC, you must channel it towards the right direction. And I'll give you good examples. I remember when we were in Ogun State during our tenure, we realized that there is need for proper infrastructure to be put in place. There is need for us to ensure that ensure that we create necessary and valuable environment for business to thrive. Even if you get this FAC, if you don't put it in let me give you a good example. Look at agriculture that will lead into industrialization. If you do proper agriculture and you engage young people, young guys who can do this in each state, I'm sure we can, if you have about 50,000 hectares of land and you cultivate those lands, you'll be able to generate revenue in the state. But people look at, I'm happy now that most of the states, in the Southwest, even in Rivers, in Kano, Kaduna, even Niger, I can see that they are very active in agriculture and they are bringing in a lot of revenue. But if you get this fact, because there's too much noise about fact, I know that the fact that's coming in is more than what has been coming in before. So how do you channel these funds? Are you doing it rightly? Are you diverting the funds to something else? Or are you just giving contracts to people and probably? So we need to look at that. That's very key. And the most important thing that people don't realize that states have they are the ones that will impact. It's the state and local government that will impact on people. And I'm happy now that there is autonomy for local governments. So that they can, when I was growing up, I've noticed that the local government are the ones that are actually giving direct impact to the people in terms of roads, infrastructure, even schools, then hospitals. They have, dispensaries that they go there and equip them. But now, I don't understand where the FAC money, because you hear the governor say, you've never had it better.
My apologies, sir. In that trajectory, if you maintain that trajectory, so for the records, the autonomy is literally on paper. We haven't seen it as it should be because it's still in the works. That has been a conversation with the CBN as to full and proper implementation. But why I had to cut in was for you to marry this conversation with the issue of IGR. When FAC is released, just as you've alluded, we expect it to do well, to be directed at sectors that impact people mostly. But what we see, when people, they start changing it to dollar and Naira issues, there's a hike in that sense. Naira becomes weakened. And then the issue of transparency with IGR. I would like you to speak to the issue of transparency with the IGR. A lot of states are not giving us the right figure, and there's a state we understand that part of the controversy that generated what they are dealing with today is because of inconsistency with what was declared before and what is being declared now. So I want you to speak to that as well, sir.
No, I agree with you, Jeffrey, and I will tell you this, and I'll be very frank with this. The issue of IGR, like you rightly said, the impact of the autonomy of the local government has not been, I agree with that. But let me tell you this. Even if you are talking about FAC, let's even forget about FAC. As a state, what are you generating in terms of revenue for your state? And I will give you a good example. When you create an environment for business to thrive, you have industries even paying taxes. I mean, for staff, the staff, look at, even, let's say, civil servants, they pay taxes. So that's part of IGR, income generation. If you create jobs, even MSMEs, if you allow them to thrive, they will pay taxes. You'll be able to monitor everything. But the problem is that, like they said, there's no transparency, because I expect each state to put on their accounts and show it on a yearly basis. People must be accountable. We must start asking questions from our state governors. I think, what have you done? Where is this? Where is that? Look at what you are showing. People working, they have no jobs to do, and that's why we have the increase in numbers of kidnappers. Where we should be doing the farming, the kidnappers are there. They don't allow the farmers to go to the farm because they can make money by kidnapping somebody and just get money. You are right about that. But I can tell you, some states, I can totally tell people that there's no reason in Nigeria where no state should not be generating income. Look at, when we are talking about federation, look at some states in America. American states, they are independent. They don't rely solely on what they are getting from FAC. Let me tell you, if states cannot generate revenue and create jobs for the teeming young ones, we continue to have problems. Accountability is very key. So I can tell you that some of these state governors, they are not, even some of them, they just leave Lagos and they leave their states and go to Abuja looking for FAC. And when they get the FAC, and like you rightly said about foreign exchange, I told some people there is a law of demand and supply. The number of people that are taking, I mean, when you have so much dollar chasing dollar, too much naira chasing dollar, then you have problems. So the problem is that why would you be changing FAC when that's meant for diversion? And people should be queried. Maybe like I always say, that maybe this law of where you say you have military for governors or something like should be removed. And I think they are trying to pass that law. Let a sitting governor be made to face judgment. If that is done, then things will change. Because I noticed that people put so much pressure on the federal government. The president is not. No, it's the state governors that you should go and meet. Because there is the limited power that the president cannot, be telling the states how they run their states. But there's a reflection of what they are doing that is affecting the global things. Some governors are doing very well. We are in Lagos here. Some of the Southeast governors, probably if you see what they are doing, you can see that they are pushing, I've seen many of them abroad, looking for investors. Because it is when you bring these investors to your state that you'll be able to create jobs, generate revenue. But if you are just waiting for FAC, that they give it to you, it's just like a child, when you're schooling abroad, apart from your pocket money that you get, some of them, as a student, they still go and work. Some of us, we have to work so that we can get enough generate funds. So that is what I expect the states to be doing. But you are very, very right that because of the result, there's no transparency. One state, the predecessor put out the account. You said it's not. Then bring your own account and let us marry everything. Let us see who is lying. Figures don't lie. We will know who is lying. But the problem is that in Nigeria, people get away with things. But the moment we have a scapegoat and somebody is being punished for it, and if they remove the immunity and the state governor is being allowed to face the EFCC, face the court, I think things will change. I can tell you that. There's no doubt that some of our state governors are not doing the right thing. They are just, they just believe in that office. Get the siren, let everybody clear the road for you. No, people must have, maybe we should start now letting people be allowed to get the right people to rule the country. Because we know the right thing to do. People know the right thing to do. It's just that they are doing something else. You know what I mean? You are right with what you said, that some state governors, they couldn't even account for it. If you go to some states that are getting so much FAC, the roads are bad. Right, infrastructure, in terms of agriculture, nothing is happening there. So there's a problem. I believe there's a problem. And it's a natural problem that we have not solved in this country.
All right, Otunba, the Guardian may have painted a mental picture of some of the things that you're saying this morning, talking about the FAC allocation, despite the fact that, Nigeria has saved over 7 trillion naira on subsidy savings. This has failed to cushion hunger and hardship. So my question really is that, when the federal government or the government begins to, save on, rather when they begin to implement the tax reforms, if the states have been unable to manage, subsidy savings over a period of 2 years, are you optimistic that there'll be anything significant when the tax reforms law kick into effect?
Let me be honest with you. The tax, I've gone through this thing as a former banker and someone that served in government. The tax reform that we have, there's nothing wrong with it, because it will make sure that the people that are earning will be able to pay, they pay more, while people that are not earning enough will probably be able to, will be taken away from. But let me tell you this, the problem is implementation. Are we disciplined enough? So I'm not optimistic, because the problem I have is that the people that are supposed to implement it, are they genuine? Are they sincere? I will tell you this, integrity matters a lot. And many people in our country, they don't have integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing when nobody is watching you. So that's the problem we have. That's been our problem. The issue of we have good laws, we have good plans in this country, but how do we implement it? And once, we are talking about people saying they are not getting. I remember growing up, even up to recently, they bring in tomato from the north and everything, but we can do that. Let me tell you, the money that they used in this country in the First Republic is the funds that generated from agricultural products. Nigeria used to be the second largest exporter of cocoa in the world. But what are we doing about that? Even when we get oil, we even export this. But the problem is that do we have people who are disciplined enough to implement these things? Our leaders, because we put everything on the doorstep of the president. No. What are the state governors doing? Some of these state governors, if you drive through some states, nothing is happening. So when you are talking about generating IGR as a state, no, they can generate IGR, but where do they implement? Where do they take the money to? People are not channeling the resources to the right direction. We could see it. We can see it. That, okay, we know the governors that are working, and we know the governors that are not working. If you go to their states, you see it. So the problem is that, are they disciplined enough, or it's just business as usual? That's what we have to. So I will tell you, I'm 50-50 about it, because it's not the president or the federal that will come and now implement that. For example, the tax reform bill that says that employees who earn a taxable income of 800,000 annually from payee, they will be exempted. But that is okay. But what about the people that are earning higher income? Somebody will go from the tax office and go and meet them, collect money from them, corruption, and say, okay, don't just pay this. So we see the moment you have any law in Nigeria, you make some people billionaires. Because some people will circumvent it, they will still go behind to collect this money and take it out. So that's the problem we have. We must maintain this thing. It's a serious offense in America. You will go to jail if you don't pay your tax. It's a very, even I think in England too. But in Nigeria, they will get away with it. So the problem is, are we going to have people that are going to compromise? If not, then we are going to. But people will compromise because of the level of poverty. And what is the level of poverty? It is our leaders, our governors, that are creating the poverty in the states. So the point is that if we create jobs for our people, I listened to the South African president telling the president of America that, look, we will reduce the number of people killing people in South Africa if we get jobs, create jobs for people, and they are busy doing something.
Right.
People are not busy doing something. They are busy stealing. The leaders are stealing money, while the people are saying, oh, if this man is riding Rolls Royce, I know he had no money before, then I can steal. Look for the alternative way.
Otunba, it's quite interesting, the situation we find ourselves. On the one hand, you still have businesses bearing a huge burden. You get to some places, you have to pay for VAT, 7.5%, that you pay, is it consumption or service tax, about 5%. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you are literally paying way more, even though VAT is meant to be some sort of consumption tax, but there's still another tax that you have to pay. So you have businesses who are losing patronage because of the tax burden. You see people looking at their receipt and they say, well, I'm not coming here again if I have to pay almost 15% for tax, right? But then you have the government on the other hand. And my question is basically to see if we can learn from the private sector, because you have the public sector underperforming time and again. For a number of reasons, there's a consideration of politics. A lot of the governors are thinking about re-election, right? So some of the things they want to do, they might not be able to do them because they don't want to ruffle feathers. But then you still have a lot of systems operating so well. The people that collect money at the bus stops, you have these young boys. They have a way of remitting those taxes. Now, whether or not it is remitted into government coffers, or it's money for the boys, or money to oil the political wheel, is another thing entirely. But what is that thing governments can learn from the private sector in terms of efficiency, such that we can look at our government and say, there's corporate governance, and this government, we're sure, would deliver on its mandate?
Thank you, Kaudi. I mean, that's a very good question. I happen to work in the private sector as a banker, and I served in government. I was able to see in between what is going on. The issue is, the problem we have is that when you're in government, people just, it's like a curve. You just see somebody who's in the private sector that was doing very well, gets to government and just change. And the problem is that because most people have compromised, the only way forward, let me give you a good example, and I'm sorry, I have to use a place where I sat. In Ogun State, then, we found out that people are just throwing things on the road, stopping people. And what we did do? We introduced harmonized taxes. I mean, I will give you an example. Dangote Industries, they had about 1,098 trucks that are plying the roads. When we introduced harmonized, we gave them a ticket that will be placed on those vehicles. And I can tell you, we made a lot of money in Ogun State. And that was one reason why IGR improved. Because the money is not going to anybody's pocket, and we introduced uniform taxation. So you pay directly into the bank account and you get deductible. During the time we found someone that collected a fake ticket and they were selling that, we arrested the fellow and prosecuted him. It gave room for. So the point is that there shouldn't be any reason why some people should be staying by the bus stop and collecting money, because the money goes into their pocket. It won't go to the state. So that is another area where there is leakage. But the point is that you can introduce state government. If state government, they are deliberate and say, good, you want to improve on the infrastructure, you want to improve on things. When you collect those funds, you go straight to the government. You have funds that we now use to help everybody. We are allowing money that's meant for everybody going to some people's pocket. When we introduced that, all these companies, Lafarge of this one, all the industries, they were paying to Ogun State government account. I mean, paying as much as 458 million. And we even saved those companies, because when you pay cash on the road, it's not accountable for. If somebody collected 10,000 and declared 5,000 naira and issue it, and they have their own receipts that they have gone to print. So we stop all those things. So the problem is that the government of every state must be deliberate about all these things. You must plan ahead and think. But the problem is that, like you rightly said, in private, I will give a good example. I mean, I work with Stanbic IBTC. During Christmas, if you are giving anything more than 25,000 naira, you have to declare it. But in government, they think it's their own right for somebody to bribe you, to give you money. It is wrong. So that is what is creating problems in Nigeria.
Thank you so much for the insight. As always, we've had to bring in your private sector experience as well as your service in public to make sure that we give a holistic intervention to this very nagging issue, especially now that the tax reform is in the works and will soon be assented to by the president. Otunba Ashiru is the chairman of Odu'a Investment Company Limited, the former commissioner for commerce and industry in Ogun State, an investment and strategic management experts with a couple of other achievements. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Kaude, and thank you, Buki. It's nice to see you guys. Have a blessed day.
You too, sir. Thank you, sir.